Welcome back to another episode of War in Cali. In this episode, I will detail Big Dre from Southside Compton Crip. Dre will be born DeAndre Smith and grow up in Compton, California. Dre will always be a big dude, standing around 6'5" or 6'6". He played multiple sports in high school, being good in basketball, and a good football player as well. During this time period, Dre will become a part of the Southside Compton Crips. Now the Southside Compton Crips, they would be established over 40 years ago and would later become a major factor among several Crip gangs in the city of Compton. They had many Crip gangs and several rival Paru sets. By the 80s, the Southside Crips would become major players in the drug trade and had many members seeing hundreds of thousands and some seeing millions. They were also known for being killers. Dre would be in the mix of many of both and had his name tied to a lot in the streets. Dre would grow up around many reputable Southside Crips, some being names like Orlando Anderson, who was known as a drug dealer and also a killer. The Southside Crips will be at war with several Parus, and this will lead to a war in Compton between the Southside Crips and all the Parus affiliated with Death Row Records. Orlando will be frontlining that beef and was even trying to take Death Row chains off Parus. September 7, 1996, the Southside Crips, including Orlando, his uncle Keefy D, T Brown, and Big Dre were all in Vegas. But that same night, the whole Death Row Records were there as well. They will all be there for a Mike Tyson fight. Orlando would end up running into Death Row, and they would jump him. Later that night, Orlando would want revenge. So later that night, Orlando, Keefy D, T Brown, and Big Dre would go out looking for Death Row and anybody involved with the Parus. The Southside Crips would get a weapon from a man named Zip, but Keefy D would later say that Big Dre didn't want to do the shooting. But this will later lead to Suge Knight and Tupac being shot, and Tupac losing his life. Speculation will always say that Orlando killed Tupac, but a lot of people would say it was Big Dre. Orlando and Big Dre being the only ones in the back seat, the shooting had to only come from them two. This will later lead to back and forth shootings in Compton, and Orlando and Big Dre and the rest of the Southside Crips were investigated for killing Tupac. Dre and Orlando were also being looked at for several other shootings, leading to a few people's deaths. By 1998, Orlando will be shot and killed in an unrelated incident after he had a shootout with another Crip. Big Dre will be free from all charges, stemming from any murders or anything he was involved in. Dre would continue to sell drugs and be active in the Southside Crips, but he would start moving to different avenues and make a record label called Runoff Records. New albums would come out on the record label, one being called Hard White, which featured several rappers. By the early 2000s, Big Dre's health would take a decline. It would be said with him being severely overweight. This would cause him to have a heart attack, ending his life early. After Dre's death, more and more speculation would come out, and people would try to say he actually did the shooting of Tupac. The biggest theory still to this day is that Orlando did the shooting, but nobody actually knows the truth, and the only person being alive from the Southside side that night is Keefy D. We'll conclude this episode. If you haven't already, make sure you check out my previous episodes. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.